Hello, ladies and gentlemen. So, for today's video topic, I am going to be talking about 3 things that men do to hurt their relationships. And I did a poll to some of my ladies in my community to collect some research of what it is that they feel like really hurts their relationship dynamic with men and how they communicate and relate to one another. So, with that data and also interjecting some of my own perspective and views, let's talk about some of the things that men do unknowingly, key point here, that can really take a heavy toll on their partnerships. By the way, did you notice how I said gentleman very femininely? Because there is a way to communicate with men in a feminine and artful manner, as you are a feminine woman. And actually, I was just talking about this yesterday, but if you study television and movies now versus television and movies made in the 40s, 50s, 60s, you can see a great difference in the way that the women were communicating with men on screen. It's a whole different dynamic. God, what a cultural shift that you can see so clearly in the older films. But I bring this up because sometimes it's good to study the two side by side and notice how the women are so naturally just like radiating and exuding so much natural femininity versus the women in the movies today. And it's very important that you take note of these differences, because those women in those older films, not only did they dress better and eat better, which naturally gave them more femininity, but they were also deeply in touch with their needs, their deep, vulnerable needs, which is femininity. And a part of those deep needs were a need to connect with a man and get him to commit to you in order for them to be able to survive, right? They had to find a husband to take care of them. And if they wanted to have children, they needed that man to, go to work and work hard to help them to survive. So, because they were so highly in touch with that need, they approached men in a very different manner. And again, I always bring this up, but it's obviously very relevant to my content, that because the cultural shift and modern day feminism, because women have become so masculinized and independent and don't necessarily, quote unquote, need men anymore in order to give them food and shelter, they approach men very differently because they feel a sense of entitlement to do so. But if you are a feminine woman and you are actually committed to, communicating with your man better, then I would suggest that you watch some of those older films so that you can really get an idea of how just even the gestures that women presented in front of men, the way that they spoke, their tone of voice, all of these traits, feminine qualities that are just so lost today and so missing, and it's so confusing, pay attention to that and begin to really study that and see how you can make changes in yourself to present yourself as more feminine in that way. In the internet world, it's the number one role model for exuding femininity was Marilyn Monroe, right? Because not only the way that she looked, because she was so beautiful And not only the way that she dressed, because she dressed so elegantly, but also just the way that she spoke, her tone of voice, the way that she carried herself around men, the way that she presented herself with a sense of naiveness around older, more respected men. These are the traits that these are the true embodiments of femininity, and surely more on a superficial layer. Because actually, if you know anything about her backstory, apparently she grew up, having a very rough childhood, in and out of foster care. Went into the spotlight, apparently was a bit promiscuous, got really messed up on pills and drugs, dealing with a lot of internal issues and a lot of hurt internally. And so that's why I don't really talk a lot about her, because she's not the true full embodiment of femininity, because of her, internal issues and the things that she had not dealt with in her childhood. It's easy to look at her as a feminine figure on the internet world, as I said, because of how she looked, but she's not the full embodiment of femininity when you really take a look deep into her life story. Okay, now I'm getting off of topic here, but some of the things that men do to hurt women in their relationships is one, emotional dumping. Now, if you're familiar with most of my content by now, you guys know that I talk a lot about men and women, how we think and behave differently, and men's emotions versus women's emotions. And every time I talk about this, of course, I get so much pushback on the internet, because men like to come at you and just say, "Oh, what do you mean? Like, men don't have emotions?" No, I did not say that. But that there is a way, there is masculine and feminine energies, and masculine energy is more structural and less emotional, more logical and less irrational and irresponsible. And feminine energy is more of that emotional, destructive, that not contained energy. And emotional dumping is such a big one, because women don't want to hear negativity from men. And there's a lot of things that go behind that. There's a lot of deep rooted things to address in negativity. Okay, so when men present negativity onto women, first it shows that if he cannot deal with problems in the external world, how can he truly provide and protect for me? Because a woman's deepest need is to feel safe and secure. That's her deepest feminine need, on a biological level. And so when men come at you with a bunch of different, negative problems and negative overreactions, it really registers to women as, well, if he has, over emotional overreactions over these small things in life, or these small stressors in his work world, then how can I truly trust that he can provide and protect when there's like this big problem and this big stress, and say somebody comes and breaks into our home, trying to harm us and the whole family? Like, how can I truly trust that he will be able to provide and protect in that way? So this is what it will register as to women when men go on, dumping emotions. But I never fail to address this too. It doesn't mean that men don't experience emotions. Of course they do. We are all human, okay? But it's that they have a bigger left inferior parietal lobe in their brain, which is more responsible for analytical thinking, logic, problem solving, fight or flight mode. They have that advantage on us women, okay? So men screw up polarity when they approach women with a lot of emotional outbursts, or they repetitively come home, complaining, crying, whining about their jobs, about their day, all of these really, really bad habits that we tend to form in the world of complaining, which has become so normalized now. And depending on how feminized he truly has become, some men more than others. Some men just get the really bad habit of, talking about, complaining about women. And unfortunately, I will say that they really adapt it from women, okay? Because women are like the number one complainers and criticizers. See, men, I hold women accountable on here too, okay? But once men get too much into this habit of complaining and spewing negativity, women will typically shut down with their emotions. They will feel very uncomfortable and unsafe to be emotional back in front of him, because he's the emotional one, okay? And you always need those two attracting forces in order to create that strong attraction and polarity. So you need a masculine and you need a feminine. You need a more rational thinker and you need a more emotional communicator. So we tend to hide more of our emotions over time, and it builds up and up and up, and then we close off. And well, when she closes off emotionally, typically she will close off mentally and physically as well. So, it all starts in creating that strong polarity in communication first and foremost. Okay, now this actually leads me to my second point, which is another thing that men do to hurt their relationships is dismissive when she expresses her feelings. Now, let me talk about this for a second, okay? Okay. If ladies are approaching men with their problems about him, typically he will become very dismissive of it because he doesn't see it as a big problem, but she views it as a big problem, okay? And so men tend to feel a bit burdened by the fact that you're not happy, and that no matter what it is that they do for you or say to you, you cannot be happy. So when we put that burden onto somebody else to be be it all for us to, have our foundation in happiness and joy, this creates a lot of stress on both parties, because who wants to feel burdened that it's like the sense of neediness, right? Who wants to feel burdened by somebody else's problems? No one. And I have this is like just a repetitive occurrence in my life, not with me personally, but a repetitive occurrence that I study so often in the people in my life and the way that they are communicating what it is that they want and desire. And do you see how this sparks an argument? Because one person says that they want or would desire something, and the other, and puts a big pressure on the other person to do that. And then the other person says, well, I don't want to feel, you shouldn't be entitled to, having me do this certain thing for you. And you are putting this burden onto me. But if I can't accomplish what it is that you want and desire, then are you going to be unhappy with me? And does that decrease my self-worth? Are you following me here? So it's this huge, big miscommunication and misinterpretation of the opposite sexes, which tends to spark arguments, okay? And arguments are not healthy despite whatever it is that the media or Hollywood is selling to you, okay? Arguments do not spark up passion, okay? Because what arguments do is slowly over time, it creates feelings of distrust between one another. I'm going to say a few things in this bullet point as well. One, arguments cannot happen if you do not engage in them, okay? So if somebody is trying to start a fight or argument with you and they're trying to provoke you and trigger you, do not engage. Walk away, okay? Exit the conversation. So it doesn't matter if it is a man or a woman. You have to protect your peace, okay? And peace does not come from engaging in arguments every single day over every single thing, okay? And I know family, it's easy to do this with your family. And even I had someone the other day tell me, "Oh, well, that's just normal because that's family." And I'm like, "No, this should not be normalized. This is toxic communication, and we need to be better. We need to get out of these belief systems that we have formed of, oh, well, family always communicates like that." Yes, it is common, but that does not mean that it should be normal, okay? It's the same thing as period pains. That it's very common that women have period pains in the Western world today, but that doesn't mean that it should be normal, because it's not normal. That's not how God created our bodies to be, okay? And secondly, in the Bible, it says, "For everyone who exalts himself will be humbled, and for those who humble themselves will be exalted." Something to that nature. But basically, all throughout scripture, we see a lot of wisdom given to us about humility and how important it is to present humility in your life and to others. So we need to humble ourselves and understand that we are not entitled to anything in this lifetime, and we are not entitled for our mom or our man or our father, whatever, to solve all of our problems or do a certain thing for us. We're not entitled to that. We have to approach it with a sense of humility, and then that is how you sort of manipulate the situation in order to get what it is that you need. Does that make sense? And lastly, to being dismissive about her problems simply because men don't perceive her problem to be as big as she is perceiving it to be. It's just two different viewpoints, basically. Basically, what men need to do in that situation is just have more understanding and more compassion for what it is that she's going through. And maybe she is being crazy and irrational and just, maybe just having an emotional outburst, and eventually she will be over it, even a few minutes later. Like, women just go through waves of emotions. They're mad about something for a second, and then they move on with their life and they're happy again. Men are the ones that tend to hold grudges. So men just need to present to women more compassion and just more understanding of what it is that they're dealing with and how they're perceiving certain situations about either their problems or in their relationships, or even their feelings about something that has nothing to do with their relationship. Maybe something about work or something about their best friend, whatever it is. Feminine energy is very relating, okay? And I know this situation so well and how frustrating it can be, okay? I truly understand, because there was a male figure in my life who, every time I would bring up something that had nothing to do with him, he would offer a solution for it. And I would get so frustrated because I wasn't communicating it as a problem in the first place. And it was a big lack of understanding on his part. And so he would create basically a problem out of nothing, but he thought that I was presenting it as a problem. So it was just very, very confusing and frustrating on my end. So I know how frustrating this gets, but that's how men think. They are problem solvers. So they're always looking for the fire to put out. If we can just get this basic information, you don't have to be an expert. You just have to have a basic understanding that men are men and women are women, and we think and behave very differently. We have different perspectives, different brain systems, different hormonal systems, all of this. Nothing I had ever learned in my life, all throughout school, ever did me any justice, never served me anything until I started learning about men and women and learning how to have better relationships. That was the best knowledge I've ever learned, okay? Because when you think of it, you are always going to have relationships in your life. And the reason why you're doing your purpose, pursuing your purpose, the reason why you're going out there and making money, the reason why you are, baking cookies for your friends and showing up to work every day, whatever, is because of relationships, okay? It all stems from having relationships. Okay. Lastly, something else that men do to seriously harm their relationships. And that is either A, men who make their woman feel like she is unimportant in a room full of family or friends, or B, makes her feel that she is, he doesn't really mind much if some man, comes up and snatches her up and starts talking to her, whatever. Basically making her feel very unsafe and unprotected. Now, this goes back to the feelings of safety that women require in their deepest need. Because providing and protecting does not come in just the form of finances. And women feeling safe does also not come in just a form of financial safety. That was in the 50s, okay? Women let men get away with that stuff way more in the 50s because they needed to survive, okay? But here today, we have more emotional needs, okay? So when men make women feel like they are unimportant, in a room full of people and friends and family, this is very hurtful to feminine energy women. So let's think about it as a wedding, okay? So what do you do in a wedding ceremony? Woman walks down the aisle in a room full of people, a room full of witnesses. Man takes her hand and says, I vow to you to commit my life to providing and protecting you. I become one with you. I do vow to put you on a pedestal, to keep you as the light of my life. That is what a wedding ceremony does. It makes a public, it's making a public commitment to everyone that you are the chosen one as the feminine woman, okay? So when women feel unseen and unheard and unprotected in that way of, oh, he doesn't care if another man, tries to flirt with me, or another man tries to, take his prize or whatever. She feels very unimportant to you in that way, can create a lot of feelings of resentment and feeling unprotected, because that is a form of providing and protecting. If an outsider tried to come in and harm your family, or to take what is yours, to take your prize, to be competitive with you, men have this predator instinct that says, no, don't come from my family. I will harm you. I will kill you if you try to harm my family and break up my family in any way. So that's a form of providing and protecting that sometimes men, they're not even aware of that, but it can make a woman feel very unmet and unsafe in that way. And actually, if you think about, gosh, I'm going to use this example, but I think about this when I'm speaking about it. This is what comes to my mind. You know how in the All Too Well video by Taylor Swift, the 10-minute All Too Well, in that scene where Sadie is sitting at the table next to Dylan, and they're at a friend's dinner party or whatever, and she like tries to grab his hand, and he just like lets it go, right? Like, she's like extremely hurt by this, and like after that scene, it caused like this huge argument because she felt like he just didn't want anything to do with her in a room full of people, and she just felt like she was not important to him. If you watch that video, you know what I'm talking about. But that's a perfect example of it. Now, for the ladies who listen to this kind of material, please do not go into coaching mode with your man, okay? Don't approach men with solutions to your problems. And us women, we tend to get into that mode very easily because we are natural born teachers. We're better at, we're highly skilled in teaching. But approaching men as their coach instead of being their feminine reciprocal is the wrong way to go about, trying to get him to be something that you want him to be, or alter him in some kind of way that you feel would be better for him. You can't make someone feel like they're not enough or that they're not good enough. You can't approach anyone with that kind of energy, but especially for men. And if you want to be as feminine as possible, you have to approach it wisely. And that does not mean you go into coaching or mothering mode and telling him what he should do and he needs to do because you would be happier. That's the wrong way to go about it. And I will be honest, that is something that I have to constantly remind myself in real life, because I'm a coach here online to men and women both, and that's 90% of my life. So stepping out of this world and going into the world of men especially, it's something that I constantly have to remind myself and not to give unsolicited advice. So yeah, you might have to just keep reminding yourself and be aware when you do it, and step back and say, you know what, I'm sorry, you're doing good enough, you are enough, but don't try to be his leader. So I'm gonna leave it at these 3 things that men do to harm their relationships. 1, emotional dumping. 2, being dismissive of her feelings and not listening with understanding and compassion. And 3, not protecting her, not in the sense of money, but protecting her status with you, allowing her to be reassured that she is the chosen one and that you are by her side, and no one can, come in and break apart your family. Okay. So anyways, I'm going to end this video here, and hopefully you guys enjoyed this. If you like this content and want to see more, make sure you subscribe, and don't be afraid to leave a comment. I will leave all my links down below as per usual. Ladies, if you are interested in investing into your dating life and your dating experiences, if you're feeling a bit intimidated in the world of dating, been there, done that. I have created a feminine dating course just for you. It has over 6 hours of content for you that I think will help you to navigate through the complicated world of dating. Shouldn't be complicated, but unfortunately here in the West, it very much is. And we need help, okay? We need help, and we need guidance from people who know more than us about things that we want to learn about ourselves, okay? So make sure you check out the Feminine Dating course if you are interested in investing into yourself in that way. And as always, I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.